What is up, Mouse fam? Welcome back to episode 6 of Podcasting the Mouse. I have two guests with me. I have my co-host, my honorary co-host to my right, your guys' left, Andrea, and down below I have Dapper Dan with me. So while we get started, Andrea, why don't you let everybody know where they can find you on social media?
All right, I'm on Twitter at Andrea Jessica and on Instagram at Andrea Runs to DL.
I was going to say how you made it easy on everybody, but then you had to have a different Instagram post. So Instagram name. But yeah, her Twitter name is right there on the screen. So you guys can go ahead and give her a follow there. And then down below me, Dan, why don't you let everyone know where they can find you?
Hey guys, you can find me at dapperdan_C on Twitter. I am not on Instagram. I should be though.
And that name might look new to you guys. That's actually a brand new name to Diz Twitter. This is Dapper Dan, formerly known as Dan Hoops. Dan Hoops has been on Diz Twitter for a while and has been getting hate for his name for a long time. So we finally got him to change it. So that's good news. All right, thank you guys so much for joining me. We're gonna start with our first topic today. Dan, you just got back recently from your first ever trip to Orlando. You went to Universal Orlando and you went to Disney World. And if anyone that follows you on Twitter knows, you very much lived up your time while you were at the Polynesian there. I would say 90% of your content was you drinking Lapu Lapus while at the Poly. So why don't you just get us started and just tell us really quickly about your trip. And then once you're done talking about your trip, we can get into some more of the details. So first and foremost, how was your trip?
It was fantastic. And it was so exciting because I've been to Disneyland probably 200 to 300 times in my life. And so to go to Florida for the first time, especially with my daughter who's 10, we just had an incredible time. And thank you for helping us plan that out. We flew in on a Saturday. We did Universal for 2 days. We stayed at the Royal Pacific, did Volcano Bay. We did 2 full days at the parks. We went over to Disney for another 4 days, 4 park days, and just an incredible time. I think I was really surprised about how much I liked the resorts at Universal. The parks were fantastic as well, but just everything from the check-in, the walk to the parks, I wasn't expecting any of it. I didn't do a whole lot of research on Universal, knowing that you had that express pass built in. But being able to take the boats, being able to walk that nice path, and then going to Disney, obviously checking into the Poly was an incredible hotel. And I had done my research. I'm a Disney guy. So first thing, we went to get Lapu Lapus, went to the pool all day. The first day we were there, we had a park reservation at Epcot. I'm like, I'm just going to hang at the pool. We got to Epcot late, did one ride, had dinner, and went back. It went above and beyond all my expectations.
Yeah, it's an interesting point you bring up, Dan, too, about Universal and Disney, because you've never been there. Obviously, any theme park fan is going to want to do their research, but I think there's something to be said about going into a park you've never been into before and just like walking in and just going like, all right, what do we do now? And so I do give credit to Universal in that regard, because even if you've never been to Disney World, honestly, if you've never been to Disneyland, you really can't do that. Not if you're trying to get in a bunch of rides, not if you're buying Genie Plus. You really need to research like what's the best route to go, where do I need a rope drop, like. But with Express Unlimited or just Express in general at Universal, like I would encourage everyone, if they've never been there before, they haven't been in a long time, just like go in, buy Express and just go in blank, because you don't need specific times for your Express. You don't need like to figure out what you need a rope drop if you have the early hours. Like just go in blind and just explore it, because that's a crazy like magical experience to go into a park blind and just like no research or anything. But you can't really do that at Disney. I would recommend to not do that at Disney, because you're not going to maximize your time. So it's funny that you like had to plan, not had to, but you planned the Disney aspect of it, and then Universal, you just went in blind and just went for it. So that's pretty great.
The one plan we had was to go to Volcano Bay early in the morning the first day we were there, and that was the best decision we made. We hit every slide. It opened at 9. By 11 o'clock, we had done the whole park.
That's awesome.
And by 1 o'clock, it was packed. So getting there early was, of the one thing we did plan, best decision we made.
That's actually fantastic advice. And Volcano Bay, I've actually never been to. As much as Universal tries to hammer home that it's a 3-park resort, they're the only resort in the world to say that has a water park. So yeah, 2-park resort in my opinion. So I've never been to Volcano Bay. Andrew, have you been?
I haven't, because I had a pass, but you had to pay a lot more to get the one with Volcano Bay.
Right. Yeah, it's the same with tickets too. So Dan, you are the Volcano Bay expert of this group right now. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it, and that's good advice to rope drop it. So what were your thoughts on Disney? Obviously, you talked a little bit about Epcot. You guys did hit all 4 parks, and you did it in a pretty leisurely pace, even though you're only there for 4 days. So what were your overall thoughts on the resort?
Going into it, because we go to Disneyland so often, and because Disneyland has, I think it's 55 rides in between the 2 parks.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking that some of these parks at Walt Disney World only have 9 rides, 10 rides, that would be an issue. It was the opposite, really. We went on about 5 rides a day, and that was perfect. Prioritized some dining, hung out at the pool for 3-4 hours a day. It was such a leisurely vacation, and we didn't want to over plan it. Obviously, you have to get up at 7 and get your lightning lanes, but we got a couple individuals in the morning, flight of passage. The day we went to Animal Kingdom, booked Kilimanjaro safaris as our first Genie Plus ride. But again, we didn't really have a lot of stress because we didn't do a ton of rides.
Mm-hmm.
And I think because we did Universal before, 6 park days in a row, trying to cram or ride crush for 12 hours, it just wasn't going to work.
Right.
Do you feel like you
Especially when you
missed
got
out?
Lapu-Lapus.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel like you missed out on a lot of stuff, or you did everything you wanted?
I definitely did. At Epcot, we went on 1 ride. We were going to go back on the Friday, but we were so tired. And we're sitting in the lobby at the Poly, and I go, Lapu-Lapus, or what? I'm like, nah, we're going to the pool.
That's fantastic. That's so funny, Dan, because it's half joke, but I know you're dead serious, and I honestly agree with you. No, it's a good point. I would say that the locals would disagree with you, but I, as an out-of-stater, as a tourist, 100% agree with you. Obviously, the 3 parks only having 10 rides, being Hollywood Studios, Animal Kingdom, Epcot. I don't think they need more. Locals would disagree for sure, but like as someone that only goes there a couple times a year, like it's nice that they only have 10 rides because they then fill out the rest of the parks with experiences. Now, maybe Hollywood Studios could probably get a little bit better in that regard, but Animal Kingdom and Epcot have so many like experiences to go with it. Obviously, Magic Kingdom has 20 plus rides, so that's fine there. So I'm with you. I don't think they need more rides either. Dan, do you want to talk about your Genie Plus experience too? Because I know you had a real interesting experience at Epcot with Genie Plus.
Yeah, well, the first thing was when I got to the hotel or woke up the next morning. Actually, I was at Universal. So we were doing our Genie Plus bookings from Universal because we hadn't yet checked out. I was booking them for Epcot that night. And the system didn't register that my wife and daughter were in the hotel room with us at 7 a.m. So it only let me book the individual Lightning Lane or Genie Plus or Frozen. But the cast members were fantastic, as always. They were able to add those 2 to the app right when I checked in. So we had Genie Plus specifically for Frozen about 6 o'clock. We did the individual for Remy about 5 o'clock. But that ride just kept going down. Frozen, we tried to go at 6, was down. We had a reservation at Space 220. So we ate there, finished up. Frozen was down again. So we spent, $50 and didn't even use it.
Yeah, so you spent, right, it's 16 after tax. You spent, $48 and didn't even use Genie Plus. Yeah, that's crazy. Obviously, that's not Genie Plus's fault. You guys are just taking it leisurely. But it's crazy to me that for all the talk around Genie Plus and like what are its merits, that the IT is still so bad because my wife and I ran into the exact same issue as you. We were trying to book at 7 a.m. and it said we weren't at the resort, even though we were. And you're right, the CMs are incredible and we'll fix it immediately, but it's crazy that it takes going to a CM to fix a system that Disney's poured all this money into and it's such a staple. So it's pretty crazy that your first day, actually before you'd even stepped foot on Walt Disney property, you already had IT issues with Disney. That's just that's just too ironic right there.
I have a question for you guys. Coming from Disneyland, I'm okay on Genie Plus. I know what it is. I had used it 3 or 4 times before. But Disney World used to have the system where you could book your fast passes in advance, right?
Yeah.
For someone who never goes to Disney World, but going forward maybe once a year or every couple of years, whenever we decide to go back, I almost think it'd be easier for an infrequent visitor to book their Lightning Lanes 2 months in advance. That way I don't have to get up at 7 in the morning.
I think
feel
the
like
7
that
in the
would be-
morning thing is terrible, but I will say this because I've done the booking months in advance. So when I did the booking to ride my Frozen Ever After the first time, I showed up that day at Epcot and it was down. So in a way it's worse because I had gotten up 2 months before on a day off at like
60
4
days
a.m. my
anticipation.
time to book it.
Yeah.
And then you've got everything planned and you have to I had spreadsheets and I knew all my times and had everything planned around it. And then when that one thing goes down that you've had planned on for 2 months, you're just going to be more upset because you planned on it. And if you're not going to be able to come back, it's just a bummer.
Yeah, it's a good point. I would say to that point, I don't think there is a correct system. I think Disney World is at the point where there is no correct system. So you have so many arguments on Twitter like, oh, FastPass Plus was better. Oh, Genie Plus is better. I would argue both weren't great. I think Genie Plus as a system is probably slightly better than FastPass Plus, but the IT is so bad that they both suck in my opinion. So yeah, I agree with Andrea. FastPass Plus was fun in terms of planning. It was cool to be highly anticipating your rides and stuff. But what happens if you have to make a switch, and it's before 60 days out? Or what happens if you get there and the ride's down? Or what happens if you're trying to park hop or you can't go to the park that day or something happens?
And some of those you have to book 60 days out or you're not going to get it.
Exactly. Right. And so I don't think either system was great. I don't think FastPass Plus was better, but I don't think.
I think the original FastPass at Disneyland was better on the fact Max Pass, where you had to be in the park. So you didn't have to be up at 7 a.m. But if you got to the park at park close, you reaped the benefits of it. But if you showed up at noon, it wasn't like all was lost for the day. You could still get stuff.
Yep, 100%. Yeah, I agree. And obviously, we don't need to get into the bigger argument, but I would say the only great system we've ever had is Max Pass. And Max Pass was maybe not an A+, but an A system, 95 out of 100. And I would say Genie Plus at Disney World and FastPass Plus from Disney World are D's, 60 out of 100. And Genie Plus at Disneyland is obviously better, than Genie Plus at Disney World for a couple different reasons. One being more ride opportunities, and two being you can't book until you're in the park, so you're not screwing over the people at 7 a.m. But it's still not amazing because we are so used to Max Pass, so it's this is just a downgrade. So it sounds like they're trying to revamp the system. Who knows? But yeah, we'll see. I didn't want to make it a Genie Plus combo. I didn't want to take away from your trip. Sorry, Dan. But all right, let's get into your favorite part of your trip, Polynesian. For anyone that follows you on Twitter knows this is a highlight of your trip. This is all we saw. And
it was
Lapu Lapu is number one. I want to hear your thoughts on Poly overall. And then after your thoughts, we can get into the future of Poly and the expansion tower, that all three of us obviously have thoughts on and all that. So, but first and foremost, what are your thoughts on Poly?
It was beautiful. One of the best hotels I've ever stayed at. As far as Disney hotels, I wouldn't put it quite at the level of the Grand Californian. That's my all-time favorite. Probably too, because I love Disneyland and I go all the time. But it was incredible. The lobby was beautiful. I never got to experience it before they redid it, which I think they did over the last couple of years.
Yeah, I think it was during 2020. Andrea, do you know they redid the lobby?
Yeah, the lobby. When I was there in fall of 2020, they were working on the monorail station.
Right. So I think and I think they just finished it in last year. So yeah, it's been the last couple of years, recent.
I love the fact that we did DVC rental. We're not DVC members, but we rented DVC points and got a great deal on it. I want to say we probably saved about 30% at least off of what you would pay just booking directly with Disney.
Yeah, I don't want to interrupt you, Dan. I'll let you go, but I want to touch on that really quick too, because I feel like so many people don't know about it. And it's not for everybody. If you don't want to pay up front, it's not for you. And if you're trying to book a package and it's not for you, but if you're okay with paying up front and you're okay with going through the rental company, a third-party company, renting DVC points is absolutely genius because you're going to get, I would say, a slightly higher quality room. They don't update or upgrade the DVC rooms as much as the regular rooms, but they are bigger. You have the small kitchenette with it. So I would say, and like you said, Dan, it's usually anywhere between 25 to 40% off. So if you've ever wanted to stay deluxe, you're trying to get the perks of a deluxe at Disney World, definitely look into renting DVC points. You need to do it pretty far in advance for the high resorts, and you have to pay all up front. But if you're willing to do that, it really is a good deal. So thanks for bringing that up, Dan. But sorry, you can keep going.
Yeah, so we actually put the reservation in the first week of October for the last week of April. So I think we even got lucky that was available because they do book 11 months out. So keep that in mind.
Right.
And at Poly specifically, those rooms are all the way off to the side, right by the monorail, the transportation center.
Yeah, so it's
they're
to the right of the resort by the TTC.
So convenient. It was almost quicker to walk to security there than it was to the lobby of the hotel. It's right there.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
What building were you in, Dan? Because I know there's 3 buildings that are part of DVC. Do you remember the name of your building?
It started with an M. Moria.
Oh yeah, that's the one. That's the one on the water, or closest to the water.
Close to it, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's great, awesome. And so, ironically enough, you say the DVC side, this is a pretty ironic, turn of events. But that's on the far right side of the building, and on the far left side of the building is the news we've gotten recently on the DVC expansion. I don't fully. I mean, obviously they're doing it because of the land, but it is kind of ironic that that hotel is going to be sandwiched now by DVC rooms. And then on the left of the DVC tower is the Grand Floridian DVC tower. So it's kind of interesting. But so first, Andrea, I want to get your thoughts. Obviously, the Poly's a beautiful resort, and now we're getting a tower. So that's not great. But I just want to hear generally, what are your thoughts on this expansion tower coming? And really quick before Andrea goes, for those that don't know, I'm sure most of my viewers know, but about, a month ago or so, Disney announced that DVC is getting a tower at the Polynesian, but it's not going to be the 2-floor towers that they have now, the longhouses as they call them. It's going to be a more traditional hotel tower. We don't have a lot of specific details. All we know is the Spirit of Aloha show is going away, and we will be getting a new pool and a couple new restaurants, but that's about all we know. So it's kind of new. So Andrea, what are your thoughts on this?
I'm not a fan. I think you just, it's kind of obstructing the view. I don't know exactly where it is. I don't have a good feel. I've seen the map, but I don't have a good feel for if I'm standing at the Poly, what that looks like and how it's going to fit in that space. But it just seems like they're going with this really unthemed generic building. And I feel like that just detracts. If I was going to go and stay, I would want to be in the other DVC, not in that new tower.
Yeah, the traditional DVC for sure. Yeah, Dan, what are your thoughts?
It's hard to know because I wasn't even thinking about that when I was there, that they were building one. And I didn't actually go on that side of the resort as much because our room was on the complete other side.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's interesting. I agree with Andrea. I don't think it's great news. I'm probably higher on it than most people, but I just don't know why they're doing a tower. The whole point of what was so beautiful about Poly is it's such unique with these longhouses. I think it's awesome that they're utilizing that space. I love the Spirit of Aloha show, but a hotel is better than that show. So I love that they're utilizing that space. I love that the Poly's getting more rooms because the Poly, especially the DVC side, books up really quickly. And I love that there's just going to be a new resort with new restaurants and a new pool to explore. But I don't know why they're doing a tower. Maybe the concept art will change, and I'm hoping it does, but the tower just makes no sense to me. Them putting a hotel where it's going is really smart, in my opinion. But yeah, it's just interesting because you're adding more DVC, even though DVC is already pretty overloaded with people. You're now adding more hotel occupancy, even though the parks are at max capacity basically every day. So I don't know where these people are going to go into at the parks. I don't know how DVC is going to accommodate them because they're going to sell contracts for this hotel, which is just adding more DVC into the system. Even for non-DVC people, it's going to add way more people into the parks. It's going to add way more people onto the monorails. I don't know how the monorails are going to hold this because the monorails are already super slammed. So yeah, it's kind of bursting at the seams. You guys have any more thoughts on that before we move on?
I agree with everything you just said. It seems like they have so many rooms and not enough park space and transportation and all that stuff.
Yep. I mean, I'm DVC, so I'm not, I'm biased in this regard, but I personally hope they just tell everyone staying at this tower, you have to use the boats because the monorails just cannot handle another, especially a 10, 12 floor tower. The monorail just cannot handle that. It's already bursting at the seams. They're already 10, 15, 20-year-old monorails. So I hope they push everyone to the boats in this regard. Maybe I shouldn't be so worried about transportation, but that's the first thing my mind goes to. But yeah, anyways, interesting. The time will tell. But as Dan's testimony, everyone make sure you get out to Poly. It is an incredible resort. All right, that'll bring us to our second topic. We are staying at Disney World. We're going to hop over to Epcot. We're going to do good, bad, and great of Dan's favorite land at Disney World, or at least one of his favorite lands, World Showcase. So this is obviously the backside of Epcot for those that don't know. We're going to do our good, bad, and great of the land as a whole. So there's a total of 11 countries, I think, right? 11? Is that right? You guys know? I think 11, around there. If it's not, you guys can correct me in the comments. But we're going to do our good of that land, our bad of that land, and our great of that land. So Dan, since you just got back, why don't you get us started? What is your good regarding World Showcase at Epcot?
The drinks. For my Disney drinking buddies out there, I can only compare it to DCA when we go drinking there. The pours at Epcot are epic.
Yeah.
I had a 4-second pour of Jim Beam in a drink, and I couldn't believe it. Epcot, I mean, at DCA, it's always pre-made. I mean, you can go in to get good bars, but I'm talking about at the pop-up, different food booths, if you want to call them that have the alcohol. Great, loved it. Food was fantastic too.
That's what I put as well. I put the food and the drinks for Epcot.
He's frozen.
And now he's gone.
Well, what's your bad?
I put that not all the countries have attractions. Like, I've been going to Epcot since I was a kid, and I've hardly spent any time in Japan because it's just shopping and restaurants. So I mainly just spend time in the ones that have more, more things to do. So I've spent more time in the other countries versus like Japan or Morocco.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Sorry, guys, I lost you there for real quick, but I'm back. All right. Yeah. So my good for World Showcase at Epcot is just, it sounds kind of dumb, but how easy it is to eat crowds. Like, whether you're a local or you're a tourist, like, you're always going to be able to go in and explore this land. Whereas there's some parts of Disney World and Disneyland where it's too busy, like, you can't even really go there. It's just too crazy. But World Showcase always has spots to do. There's always a drink to get. There's always food to be had. Yeah, you might not be able to do the rides because they get pretty long lines, but, like, there's always a movie that's playing every 30 minutes, that you can hop into with lines. Unless it's insane busy, most, like, drink spots don't have lines. So that's my good for World Showcase at Epcot. Now we'll get a little bit negative. Dan, what is your bad about World Showcase?
It was so hot the day we were there. I don't know if that's a particularly hot area of the park. I know Epcot in general is, but there wasn't a ton of shade trying to maneuver around the different countries. So that would be my only negative thing.
I agree with you. It 100% needs more shade. That's a great point.
Yeah, I was we were talking while you disappeared for a second that my bad is that there's not enough attractions in the countries, like especially Japan and Morocco. I've hardly spent any time in those two countries over the years because there's not that big draw. So I don't think I've ever been into the shops in Japan, and I've been going to Epcot since I was a kid. So.
Yeah, I'm with you. People say, oh, you don't need rides, but ultimately, like, a ride even if you're not riding the ride, a ride is a draw to that land. So yeah, I'm with you. And hopefully that's something that Disney World addresses going forward because they have so much room for more rides. And obviously, we just got Remy, so they're getting there. It's slowly but surely. Hopefully we get the Mary Poppins expansion, because even if it's just a little flat ride, like, that adds so much to the land in UK.
It definitely does. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, those are both good. My bad is it's just so spread out. This is kind of funny because it's kind of tangential to my good, but it's so spread out that it'd be very hard to, like, maneuver if you need somewhere to be. So, like, say you're at the American Pavilion and you have, like, a dining reservation in it used to be called Future World, but now it has a different names. You're really, like, pretty screwed because that's going to be a half-hour walk. Like, yeah, you can take the boats, but it's tough. If Harmonious is going, like, good luck trying to get around. It's just too crazy. So as much as I love World Showcase, it's just so big. It can be really hard to get around. And especially with Genie, like, if you have a lightning lane for, like, Frozen, at Disneyland, you can be, whenever, I'll get there when I get there. It's 5 minutes away. If you're at the wrong side of the park in Epcot, that could take you 20 minutes, 30 minutes to get to. So you really have to plan it out. So that's my bad for Epcot. Back to the positive. Dan, what is your great about World Showcase?
It's just the vibe of being there for me. If I was a local and I lived in Orlando, or if Walt Disney World was my locals park, if you will, I would be in Epcot World Showcase all the time. I wouldn't need to ride a ride. I could hang out. I could have dinner, lunch, hang out with the buds, just do kind of like what we do at DCA often, where we're not riding a lot. We're seeing, a band play or just walking around, enjoying it. But Epcot is such a beautiful park, especially at World Showcase. And so it's just the vibes of being there. I loved it.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. That's great.
So good. Okay, my grade is kind of specific. And I said I like the inside pavilions that recreate outdoors, especially nighttime. So that's like the Mexico pavilion when you go inside, beer garden, and the Frozen Ever After queue. I think it's so cool. And it's kind of, it's just so, it's like that magic. It's like for us when we're riding on Pirates Through the Blue Bayou, like that magic is just so cool. You feel like you're in an outside town in Mexico at night and you've got the stars and you got all that stuff. I just love that.
Yeah, 100%. I'm glad you touched on that because the theming, it's not that great. It almost was, but the theming of World Showcase is insane. And so I'm glad you pointed that out. My grade is pretty obvious, but it's the dining. And I don't mean the like festival booths. I mean like the actual dining. Like there are so many options. There's like cheap quick service if you're not trying to spend a bunch of money. There's 2-hour sit-down experiences between the steakhouse at Japan, beer garden, chef. I'm gonna butcher some of these names. Chef Stefan's, like just so many. There's the new creperie if you want like a meal, not like a super fast meal. Kind of that hybrid. Mexico's got like 2 or 3 different great restaurants. So it's probably like like obvious to say this because everyone agrees. The dining at Epcot and World Showcase is just insane. Like that could be all the dining at Disney World period, and I would say it's incredible dining. Like it could carry an entire resort on its own. So super love the dining there. All right, I think that is that topic. Thank you guys so much. You guys can let us know down in the comments what you're good at and great at World Showcase are. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Topic number 3, we're going to get into the good stuff, the rankings now. We're going to be doing top 5 most underrated attractions or experiences at a Disney park. One of Dan's big things is just underrated stuff. It's probably because he's a local. Andrea as well. These locals love underrated stuff. I'm not a local, so I'm not going to bunch myself in there. But locals love underrated attractions and experiences. So we're going to each rank our top 5 most underrated. This can be at anywhere at Disneyland Resort or anywhere at Disney World. It doesn't have to be a ride, but it does have to be like an entertainment. So it can't just be like sitting by the water, like it has to be an experience. So with that being said, Dan, you are the guest. Why don't you get started? Your number 5 most underrated at a Disney park.
Number 5 is the only one at Disney World, and it's a ride that I didn't think I would love, and it's Navi River Journey. I absolutely love that ride. I love Pandora. After World Showcase, those are my 2 favorite lands at Walt Disney World, Pandora and World Showcase. But the ride itself, I loved it.
For sure. Locals for some reason aren't fond of, probably because of the wait time. But if you can get without a wait like in the morning, or if you just have a Genie Plus for it, I'm with you. It's underrated. Great one. All right, Andrea, number 5.
Ooh, my number 5 is Gadget Go Coaster, which is currently closed right now at Disneyland. It's got such cute theme and it's small enough for kids, but it's still pretty fun. And the queue just like goes underneath the roller coaster, and I love that. It's
wow, so that's a good one, Andrea. I did not even think about that. That's a solid answer. That coaster is underrated for sure. Obviously, it should be longer, but outside of the length, that's a good coaster.
Yeah.
All right, my number 5. I'm Dan. I'm Animal Kingdom, Kilimanjaro Safaris. Most of the entries on my list, I did ones overrated or underrated for everybody. Obviously, Kilimanjaro Safaris isn't really underrated for tourists, but it's for sure underrated with locals. I feel like this ride never gets talked about as like one of the best rides in the world, and I think it legitimately could be one of the best rides in the world. Like, if this ride didn't exist at a Disney park, like you're just riding this ride, I would pay probably $40-$50 to do it. Like, it's a 45-minute, like crazy, just amazing trek. So big fan of the ride. I love the queue. I love the theming. I do wish I had a storyline, but without the story, it's still amazing. That's my number 5. All right, Dan, number 4.
Number 4 for me is the lighting at Cars Land. They do it every night at sunset. I call it Shaboom. I don't know if there's actually a name for it. Someone in the comments could probably tell us. But I think a lot of people just overlook it, probably because it only happens for a minute every day.
Yeah.
But they play the music. The cast members are into it. There's a big circle that kind of forms right in front of Flo's. If you're ever in DCA, right around sunset, I think right now it's probably about 7:45. Check it out.
Yeah, I'm at Cars Land like super fan, and I didn't even know about this until like last year. Like, I 100% with you, Dan. I feel like nobody really knows about this. It's definitely never talked about, and is one of the coolest things ever. So that is a good entry. All right, Andrea.
All right, my number 4 is Autopia during the fireworks. So it's just super magical when you got those fireworks going on in the background. I mean, a lot of the rides are more magical during the fireworks, but Autopia, you're just driving through the countryside. You got the fireworks going off in the backdrop. It's a good view back there because they're going off behind Small World, so it's a solid view.
I'm glad you added that last part because I almost cut you out of the feed before you added that fireworks part. Oh, that's a good one. And just my viewers know, Andrea and Dan, they were scheming about how a way to fit Autopia into this combo before we even started. So I should have seen that one coming. All right, my number 4 is Turtle Talk with Crush. And I'm going both coasts, DCA and Epcot. I feel like this ride just never gets talked about. Obviously, it's geared towards kids, but like what a relaxing way to like get out of the heat, especially if you're in Disney World at Epcot. But even at DCA, like there's not a whole lot of shows at DCA. It's a great way to get out of the heat. It's super funny, especially if you get a good CM that like isn't afraid to roast kids. Like it can be hilarious when they start roasting the kids. Like it's interactive, it's different every time, it's super relaxing. It's not like the most groundbreaking thing ever, but it's super fun on both coasts. Top 3, Dan.
Number 3, this is specific to Disneyland for me, although it could be any Disney park really. I call it the close down. I used to be a rope dropper when I first started going to the parks a lot, and closing the park down with your friends. If I'm at Disneyland, I'm getting a coffee at Jolly Holiday. It's about 11:30 at night, and I'm closing the park down. You can either hang out on Main Street, see the people leave the park, sit up by the train station. It's one of my favorite times of the week, and I go almost every week. Close down the park. It's a great time.
Dan, I think I've closed the park down 3 or 4 times. Every single time we've done it, you were at Jolly Holiday. I've never closed the park.
That's the place.
You've not been at Jolly Holiday.
If you want to see me, come to Jolly Holiday at 11:30 on a Saturday. I will be there.
I've done it with him too. It's awesome.
Yeah, that's right. All 3 of us did it. Yeah, we got the fresh tomato soup, grilled cheese sandwich, perfection. Mm-hmm. All right, Andrea, number 3 for you.
Okay, I picked Swiss Family Robinson Treehouse. This is a big nostalgia one for me, but I remember being little and being fascinated with the little cup system that went up and dumped the water out. And so it's just super relaxing up there. You get some good views. You kind of get out of the crowd, and I just think it's super underrated.
That's a great one. I was at Disney World last week, and I was only Magic Kingdom for a couple hours, and I only did like 3 things. I was one of them because it was one of the only things without a wait, and I was not trying to wait for something. So that's a really good answer.
That's awesome.
All right, my number 3, both coasts, but mainly Disneyland here, the monorail. Obviously, it's a big attraction. Everyone talks about it. Everyone rides it. But I still feel like it's like still underrated because it's so relaxing. The entrance is kind of hard to find in Tomorrowland, and I kind of love that. Like,
yeah,
you don't even feel like that's a correct ride entrance, but it is, and so I love that. Obviously, being able to go to downtown Disney, like, it's not the best transportation practically, but it's still fun that you can take it anytime you're at downtown Disney. So I just love the monorail, super relaxing. I love getting different views of the parks. The monorail gives good views, and it's classic Walt. So anytime we get classic Walt, that's a bonus for me. So monorail is my number 3. Top 2, Dan. What is your number 2?
Number 2, easy, Casey Jr.
Oh, so good.
One of my all-time favorite rides, and whether it's during the fireworks, which is obviously amazing, or anytime that ride, it's never usually more than a 10-minute wait. I mean, sometimes if it's real busy, it might be 20, but it's a great ride. One of my all-time favorites. Get a churro at the churro cart right underneath the ride. Get in line, eat your churro on the train. What more can you want?
Dan's bringing in the advice today.
I'm sad that I didn't think of Casey Jr. I love that ride.
Awesome. Andrea?
All right. My number 2 is the Silly Symphony Swings. I love that ride so much. And I'm not a circle ride person. They bother me because that one's at an angle and you get that up, down, and over the water, those great views. And, if the water's drained, you get the good view of that too, even though we don't love that. But the music, just the way you feel like you're flying, it's so much fun.
Great answer. I love that. And just like Dan's answer, Casey Jr., there's usually not wait. Obviously, in the middle of the day, it can get, 15, 20 minutes. But generally that ride's pretty close to a walk-on, so that's a great answer. All right, my number 2 is the Wildlife Express train at Animal Kingdom. This is the train that takes you to Rafiki's Planet Watch. Rafiki's Planet Watch is fine. I don't think that's underrated, but I think the train specifically is underrated. Number 1, transportation. That's always a plus at any park. Number 2, backstage. Always a plus at any park. Number 3, hardly any wait. Always a plus at any park. Number 4, crazy theme. The queue for the like loading station for this ride is one of those like thematically amazing spots in any spot in Animal Kingdom, and I feel like nobody even knows about it. Like it's kind of like underrated. Most people don't know about it. So my number 2 is Wildlife Express train. All right, that brings us to our number 1 most underrated attraction at any Disney park. Dan, just started.
One of my all-time favorite things to do at Disneyland, Main Street vehicles. And it can be any vehicle. For me specifically, it's the fire truck. They're only out in the morning, so it's not something you can do in the afternoon at night. But wait for that thing. There's usually almost no wait if you pick up the vehicle at the castle and take it back to Main Street.
Yep.
But that vehicle has so much history. It's one of the last photos Walt ever took in the park with Mickey right at the end of Main Street or by the castle. Sitting in the back of the fire truck, honk the horn. It's Disney perfection.
It's hard to get attraction that both locals and tourists barely ride, and that's 100% one of them. Any of the Main Street vehicles. The only one that's probably not underrated is the horse-drawn carriage. Everyone rides it, but fire truck, to your point, the double-decker bus, the omnibus, all those incredible. That's a really good one. All right,
I can't tell you how many times I've seen guests ask a cast member if they have to pay to ride a vehicle. I don't know if you guys have ever heard this. I've heard this at least.
Don't put that in the air, Dan. Don't put that out there in the universe.
That's awesome. Are you ready for my number 1?
Yeah, ready.
All right. So I put the Animation Academy in DCA, but mainly just the main room that you go in and sit, and they have all the screens with the music for all the films. It's air conditioned. You can go and usually find either a spot on the couch or a spot on the floor. It gets you out of the crowds. And you just get to soak up all that like Disney magic. Some of the shows or the movies that they put up have some of the like concept art for the movies. That's super cool. And it's a really long loop. So you can sit in there for probably at least half an hour before it starts to repeat.
That is a great answer because most people don't know about that. My only critique is they need more couches in there. Yes. They only have one and it should be in the middle. And now they like moved it to the side. They get more couches in there. I have no clue why they don't. You can just put in like chairs. Like they need more seating there. But that is a great answer. All right, my number 1 is Walt Disney Presents One Man's Dream. I'm more so talking about the show, but this is a walkthrough and then into a show at Hollywood Studios. I probably love it so much because Hollywood Studios is really lacking those like walkthroughs, kind of like chill attractions that most parks have. But even if it wasn't Hollywood Studios, I still love it. It's classic Walt Disney. It's a great homage to him. They change the props in and out all the time. It's just an incredible show. Like I usually don't get emotional over just like non-spectacular shows, like just movies or whatever, but this show makes me emotional every time. You can always get in without a long wait. So my number 1 is One Man's Dream. All right, Dan and Andrea, thank you so much for your list. I feel like we didn't have any hot takes this time, so hopefully everyone agrees with us. You guys can let us know down in the comments what your thoughts are on everyone's list. I gotta say those are pretty solid rankings. I'm very impressed. Well done. All right, that brings us into our topic number 4. This time we're going to be learning all about Dan, our guest this week. Obviously, Dan, we heard about your Disney trip. But this topic, I want to more so focus on your Disney fandom. Obviously, you're Disneyland local, so it's probably getting most of your volume on that. But you can talk about you and your daughter and your experiences there at the park. And then we also want to hear about your Every Ride Challenge and how you got into that and how you donated a charity to that and all that good stuff. So the floor is yours.
Well, I had always gone to Disneyland as a kid. We went maybe once a year. And from age about 20 to my early 30s, I didn't really go to the park much. So my love for Disney didn't really blossom until I was about 33, I would say. And we had just moved down to Southern California, and we booked a 2-day park hopper for me, my wife, and our daughter, who was, I think, 3 at the time. Aww. We stayed on Harbor, and I remember this trip so well. For whatever the circumstances were, whenever we walked in the park that day, it just felt like I was at home. And it's a hard feeling to express because I hadn't been there in a while, right? But it set something off inside me and our family, and we just instantly became huge fans. And we bought, this was in October of, I want to say 2015. By the next spring, we had already had our deluxe APs. We were going, once a month. And the first year we would go about once a month, every Sunday or Saturday. A year later, we started getting more into it. We bought a signature pass back when they had those, and we would go every 2 weeks. And then that suddenly became every week, how we all do. So then the park closed, and when it reopened, we bought our magic keys. We obviously bought our dream key. And I've made this point on Twitter, but over the last year being in the parks, I've probably met more great friends than I had in my whole 5 years combined going to the parks. I don't know what the reason is, and I don't know if it's because we had all missed the parks for so long. We started a community within the community, just meeting new friends, and I met Sean and I met Andrea, and I just so many great friendships that I've made through the parks. And I don't know what to attribute it to other than just not taking things for granted, especially Disneyland.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting, Dan, because the only community I'm a part of in terms of Disney is Twitter. I know you're in a lot of the Facebook groups and stuff like that, right? And I know you've made a couple friends through that, but I really do wonder if it's just like not Twitter, the platform, but like the community that's on just Twitter is like, I don't know if that's it or what, but it just feels like everyone's so just like wanting to hang out. And you're right, maybe it was COVID, maybe it was the parks being closed for so long, but yeah, I'm with you. I probably met 90+% of my Disney friends like post-COVID at the parks, so that's a good point. But yeah, and you and I and Andrea actually all met. I think I was with Andrea meeting you for the first time, Dan, or something like that. But then you guys met all at the same time, and that was a year and a half ago or whatever it is.
So
and now we hang out all the time there, for sure. So Dan, now let's get into your every ride challenge. So this is something that I feel like people kind of know about, but maybe the logistics behind it people don't know. So explain what the every ride challenge is, and then explain how you have used it to, and you and a few others have used it to benefit charity as well.
So back in 2018, I saw somebody on Twitter as posting about riding every ride. They were midway through a challenge run, and I just clicked on it and I started scrolling down, and I was like, what are they doing? These trying to ride every, at that time, I think Bugs Land was still open. So there was 50 rides at Disneyland Resort, DCA and Disneyland. And I had just learned that there was a challenge where you could try to ride every single operating attraction in one single day. That doesn't count any shows. The challenges are based on anything that moves. So it has to be a vehicle. So we're not talking about Tiki Room or Great Moments. You have to be on a vehicle. So I looked into it, and within a few days, I signed up for my first challenge. I was back in January of 2019, I want to say. And I've always been a planner at Disney, and I'm just looking at it thinking I'd be great at this. So I wanted to try it. It was so much fun. It's such a fun memory. Again, a lot of people, you have to be a little crazy to try it, but it's such a fun day. You're talking about a 17-hour day. Getting up, getting to
the parameters are park open to park closed, right? And you can use whatever system they have in place. So you can use Genie Plus, Fast Pass, whatever they have in place, right? But you have to hit every ride at least once.
Exactly. Now, for something like the Main Street vehicles, you only need to do one vehicle. And for the Disneyland Railroad, you only need to ride the train between one stop. And part of the challenge is posting every ride on Twitter with a screenshot and a timestamp of the photo, posting all your lightning lanes, or back then it was fast passes. So there's always a challenge within the challenge because it's so there's so much mental energy trying to post the updates, book your lightning lanes, getting on the lines, riding the rides, refreshing like crazy to try to get some drops, whether it's a lightning lane for a, we were trying to find the Guardians on our last run, but just it's great though. I did it once, the first time by myself. And then when my daughter was finally tall enough to ride Incredicoaster, which I think is 48 inches,
Yeah.
We did the challenge together. This was in November of 2019. And we completed, I think, I would still claim that she's the youngest person to ever do it. She was 7.
That's
and
incredible.
One of the best memories we've ever had in the park. And we've been going to the parks for years, obviously, but such a fun experience. And then the parks closed, obviously, open back up. We had signed up for the Every Ride Challenge this past February, just about 3 months ago. And this is the first time I did it with a group. So there was 6 of us total that went, me, myself, and 4 of my good friends. And
you, your daughter, and 4 friends, right?
Yes, correct. And through the Every Ride Challenge, we included a link to donate to Give Kids the World Village, which I didn't know a ton about before I did the challenge, but they're a great charity. Please check them out. They do some great work in Central Florida. And we included the link in our challenge run. We were able to raise, I think I had a goal of $500. Just maybe we'll raise a couple hundred, but 500 seemed like a reasonable goal. We raised $1,200. Incredible.
Incredible.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Incredible.
And I want to say that Every Ride Challenge, through their community, and I could be wrong here, they've raised over $100,000, probably even more over the last few years of doing that. Great group of people to do that.
Yeah, so Give Kids the World is a for those that don't know, it's a resort that exists pretty close to Disney World and Universal in Florida. It's a resort only for kids that I don't want to say, I want to be correct with this. Kids that can't experience Disney in the correct way. So those that maybe have life-threatening issues, or they're not able to experience the parks in a way someone else would. So they're able to go to this resort, and this resort, Give Kids the World, partners with Disney and Universal. So they're able to get park tickets and go. Then they're able to come back and stay at the resort with a bunch of other kids as well. And the whole thing is paid for. All their food, their ice cream, their family gets to go as well. So really is incredible stuff. There's a lot of YouTube channels that work with them as well. So Dan, how can someone that's interested in maybe doing the challenge or just looking into sponsoring someone that's doing it, where can they find more about this?
Check out Every Ride Challenge. Google it. I don't know if it's everyridechallenge.com, but throw it into Google. It'll pop up. They're very active on social too. The challenge actually started at Walt Disney World and sort of made its way to Disneyland a couple years later. Disneyland is really the only park right now that you can complete it. Disney World, because of the park hopping rules, because of other factors, going on all the rides in a day is, I wouldn't call it next to impossible, but with the park hours being short, it's very difficult. Disneyland is still a great challenge. It'll take a full 16 hours. You might be able to do it in 14 or 15 if a couple rides are down, but definitely bring food with you. You're not going to be stopping. You might be able to mobile order a corn dog or grab a hot dog, but it's going to be a full day and a lot of fun.
Great. Yeah, you guys can check them out. And they are on Twitter as well. I was trying to bring it up here. I think just Every Ride Challenge. It's at Ride Every on Twitter. So you guys can look them up and give them a follow. They're doing a lot of amazing stuff. And what it sounds like to me is Dan's either trying to ride every ride in one day or just sitting there drinking Lapu Lapus while his Genie Plus goes completely unused. And there is no in between. That is Dan's experience of the parks. So the last thing I want to talk about, Dan, is obviously you and I and Andrew hang out a lot. But what we don't know is Andrew and I only hang out with you so that we can also hang out with your daughter, Chloe. So I wanted to talk a little bit about how your daughter got into Disney. Obviously, it's probably through you. But just your experience with your daughter going to Disney and why she's so incredible if she's your daughter.
She's awesome.
It's just the best. Growing up, we started going to the parks when she had just turned 4. So going through all these experiences, she's a big Disney fan. She's a big Star Wars fan because of me. And it just so happened that the building of Galaxy's Edge was going on right as we were just getting into Disney, and we had followed it. And going to the Galaxy's Edge opening weekend was one of the best memories we've ever had as a family. And seeing her build a lightsaber, seeing her meet the characters. We did Rise of the Resistance opening day. I took off work.
Dang.
I took her out of school. We got to Toy Story parking lot at 3 a.m. These are things that I always used to be the kind of person that would be like, I don't need to do it the first day. I'll just do it a week later. I'll do it a month later. But with Disney, having that vibe and the energy in the parks on days like that, it's unmatched. And
it's pretty special.
You can never re-experience something like that. I remember going into Oga's Cantina, my daughter and I, January 2020, opening day for Rise. The energy in that bar was like something you might never see again. Everyone had their boarding groups. We were all just so pumped up to ride. It was about 8:30 in the morning. We were just, what a great day. So memories like that, it seems like just going to the parks, if not every weekend, we're there about 3 times a month, I would say. It's where all our friends are and where we've had so many great memories together, and seeing her grow up and seeing her photos with characters when she was 3 and now at 10, just looking back on it, I hope she remembers it like I remember it.
Yeah, for sure. Your daughter's incredible, dude. She's so fun to hang out with. She's absolute trooper. She's 10 or 11 now. She's 11 now.
She'll be 11 in December.
Okay, so she's almost 11. You would think she's like 17 when you hang out. Like, she's just awesome. So most of the time, Andrew hang out with Dan so that we can hang out with his wife and his daughter. But all right, Andrew, I'm gonna put you on the spot a little bit here. Obviously, you might not have an answer because you hang out with Dan a lot. But do you have any questions specifically for Dan and his Disney passion?
Yeah, when was the first time you remember going to Disneyland?
Oh God, I don't remember how old I was. The oldest memory I have was being near Matterhorn, and I was on my dad's shoulders walking around the Matterhorn. I must have been about 4. I don't remember anything before 4, but from there we started going every year or so. We grew up in Fresno, so it wasn't too far away. It was a yearly visit for us.
That's impressive. All right, awesome, Dan. Thank you so much for sharing. And obviously, if you guys have any more questions for Dan, or if you don't, just make sure you guys give him a follow on Twitter. He's a super awesome guy. Dan, I feel like you're a Disney expert, but you're kind of like newer to you're an underrated Disney Twitter flow, I would say. Like, I feel like you're still getting into the Disney side. So everyone make sure you follow Dan, one of the best Disney guys there is. All right, brings us to our last topic. Dan, we're going to put you on the spot here. We need our top 3 best theme park attractions of all time that you've ridden, and then your top 1 ride that you've never ridden but you want to. So it can be Disney, Universal, another theme park, doesn't matter. Top 3 in order, then your 1 ride you want to go on you've never been on.
I find this hard because I have almost 2 separate lists. I've got my favorite rides, and then I have what I think are the best rides. So for this one, I'll stick with my favorite rides my 3 favorite rides I've ever been on, and that would probably be number 1, Big Thunder Mountain at Disneyland. I think it's a clear favorite for me, especially at night. I've ridden that ride more than any ride in any park. I probably ride it almost every time I visit the parks, I would say.
Wow.
Number 2, and this ride, if I would have ridden it once or twice, wouldn't maybe even be in my top 5, certainly not top 3, but Mission Breakout.
Yes.
It's a ride.
Dan and I are ride twins.
Mm-hmm. When I think about rides that I could ride every single day or multiple times per day, it's Guardians and Big Thunder. It's those 2. Mm-hmm. No question about it.
Yeah. I feel like every time in the parks, I get a text from you saying, yeah, we're at Disney and we were going to buy Genie Plus, but we really want to ride Guardians. So we just bought Genie Plus for Guardians. I feel like I've got that text from you like 3 different times.
Number 3 is a little hard. I was thinking about Rise, but having just come back from Disney World, my favorite ride, and it was not even close, Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. It blew me away. I didn't have crazy expectations for it, and maybe that's why it was so high on my list. But it's a ride to me that falls in the same category with those other 2, that I could ride every day and see new things and just not get bored at all. There's so much to see. I had different ride experiences too. I think I sat in the first car, the first ride, and we rode it twice, and I sat in the back the other time. I noticed some different things. But in terms of what I love about a theme park attraction, that's it. Great theming, great music, great pre-show. Re-rideability is a 10 out of 10. It's a perfect ride.
And your top 3 is so diverse. You have a family dark ride, new gen family dark ride, an old school 1970s family coaster, and then a new school, like probably one of the craziest thrill rides Disney's ever built. And that's your top. I love it. So diverse. Mm-hmm. All right, number 1 ride you want to ride the most you've never been on.
I was thinking about this, and I'm gonna go with Mystic Manor, Hong Kong, Disneyland. I love dark rides. It looks fantastic, and that's it.
Andrea, what are your thoughts on his top 3?
I mean, I think we're like, I haven't ridden Mickey and Minnie's, but I'm super excited about it. But yeah, number 1 and number 2, I'm right there. I might flip them, but those are, I know every little, shimmy on Big Thunder, and yeah, I could ride that. I haven't been riding it because the line times are always so long, but yeah, I could ride both of those every single time I go.
I'm impressed, guys. You got an old school classic as your top 2, and then a new school like refurb that most locals hated at first. So I'm impressed. That's solid.
Well, I think sometimes you have to ride something more than once or twice to get a feel for how much you like it. And that was Guardians the first time I went on it, Mission Breakout, I should say. I liked it, but I just wasn't expecting the ups and downs, the thrill of it. And it gets better with every ride.
It gets better and better with every ride.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right. That's funny. We can't really say Guardians anymore, can we? With Cosmic. We have to say Mission Breakout. Yeah, that's a good point. With Mickey and Minnie's and with Guardians Breakout and Mystic Manor, I've never been on it, just hearing about it. There's so much rideability because A, your ride experience is different every time, but B, even beside that, like there's so many new things to see because there's so many different things everywhere you go. So I love that aspect of those. So those are great. All right, Dan, thank you so much. And Andrea and Dan, thank you both for joining me. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Make sure you guys go ahead and give them a follow on Twitter. We have @AndreaJessica and @DapperDan_C, formerly known as Dan Hoops. Guys, please make sure you follow on Twitter. These are 2 of my best friends in the entire world. Met them both through Twitter, and now we hang out every single time we're at the parks. So make sure you guys give them a follow. Thank you guys so much for joining me. Until next time, peace.